It looks
Hello.
so, it looks so sunny where you are and so warm.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon, good evening to you.
This is Rahmat Ali from. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. This is Rahmat Ali from Pakistan.
Very
Hi,
cool.
Ramat. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have been at UNO during my training, Teaching Excellence and Achievement Program. I spent
Yes,
6 weeks over there from April to May.
great. So
Yes.
that's wonderful. So you probably know Anne.
Oh, yes, I do. And this is the reason I'm attending the session. I was expecting any of my mentors would be here. So I'm so excited to meet them.
Awesome. Good morning, Miss Deirdre. You're on mute, so I can't hear you. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Very much. Hello, how are you?
Hello, ma'am Dedra. How are you?
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
You look very awake. Yay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
I cannot see you. Actually, there is some connectivity issue I'm facing right now. But yes, now I can see you. Dedra is there and Anne is also there.
Yeah. Jessica might join us. I don't know for how long, but she'll try to be here. Maybe for the Q&A at the end. Hey, Nikki, how are
All
you?
right.
I'm doing really well. How are you? Good morning.
I'm Wow, you even made it into the office. Well, that's right. You said that you have to be there by 7, don't you?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I know it's just a few minutes past 7 when we said we would start. So Ramat, thank you for being here and welcome. I think you will find a lot of very beneficial and applicable information in what you're about to hear. So Nikki Allen is going to be our presenter. She works for the Academic Career Development Center. And so she gets to teach all kinds of people from all over, so many things, but it's also a specialty in resumes and cover letters and CVs. So I am excited for what we all get to learn in this time. If you have questions, you can write them in the chat, either to everybody or to me individually, and we will have time at the end to discuss those questions. Okay, so.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great. So welcome, Nikki. Thank you. And now the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Nikki Allen, and I work as the internship coordinator for the Academic and Career Development Center. I just want to take a few seconds to say thank you for inviting me here today to talk about resumes. I'm really excited. And with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can you see like yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about resume etiquette. And to begin, why should you create a resume? right? This is really the first step to apply for any professional opportunities, especially for students that are recently graduated, kind of looking to make that breakout into the career field. You can also keep track of your accomplishments, your experiences. It's a great networking and marketing tool. There are different platforms such as LinkedIn where you can upload your resume for folks to then view and network with you. Also, it's a great way to make a very first impression, right? Recruiters, this is their first time seeing you and all of your accomplishments. So a well-written resume is going to increase your chances of employment, is unique, and it's going to expand your professional network. All right. There was an eye tracking study of recruiters who were looking at resumes. Recruiters stated that they spent 4 to 5 minutes per resume, but actually they spent, how long do you think, looking at one resume? Any guesses? Go ahead, you can unmute yourself. You can throw something in the chat. Here just says 2 minutes. Okay. Lindsay says 1 minute. Any others? Okay. Time actually spent was 6 seconds looking at a resume. Okay. And over here, you can see where these red spots are where they focused the most while looking at a resume. Okay. This big section right here with all these big paragraphs are not going to be read. See how they just kind of skipped right over it and didn't look at it at all. Okay. And so some of what they focus on while looking at resumes are going to be your name. So making sure that your name is big and bold up top, right? You're not going to have it small size, okay? You also want your current title and company, any previous title and companies, as well as those start and end dates. Lastly, your education. These are the sections that recruiters focus on the most, okay? All right, here are just going to be some general rules for, this is going to be for the United States, okay? If you're applying for a position within the United States, some common things to avoid are going to be color, okay? Most often, companies are using now what's called applicant tracking system, which is going to stand for ATS, right? Applicant tracking system, okay? Any color sometimes in your resumes can just, the ATS system will not be able to read what is in your resume, and so it will get rejected right away, right? You also, in the United States, don't want to include any photos. They are hard for ATS systems to look at as well, okay? We've also learned now that personal information is not needed aside from your contact information, okay? The only thing for your address, you don't need to include your actual street address anymore either. All you have to include is your city and state. And then, of course, as we saw in that eye tracking study, make sure you avoid paragraphs, short and simple. What is acceptable as well, resumes can be 1 to 2 pages now, okay? They used to only be 1 page, but how can you fit everything you've been doing in 1 page? So typically for the United States, 1 to 2 pages is fine now for a resume. You can also adjust your margins. So on the edges of your Word document, they can be 0.5 to 1 inch margins. right? This helps reduce some white space where you can utilize your accomplishments. You can add more in your resume. Make sure you include at least 2 forms of contact information, right? That's going to be like phone number, email. If you do put your phone number down, please make sure that your voicemail is set up, okay? Oftentimes recruiters will call you and there is no voicemail set up. Your voicemail box is full. And so then they're going to move on to the next candidate, okay? Resumes, make sure they're bullet point form as well, so they're easy to read. That way it's not as many paragraphs. And then, of course, there are some preferred fonts here from employers, okay? Times New Roman, all Arial, sans serif, all of those are acceptable as long as they are easy to read, okay? All right, so how do resumes differ from country to country, right? I just went over rules for the United States. Here is going to be kind of a chart for rules, general rules for resumes with different countries, okay? Some call them curriculum vitae, okay? Here in the United States, that is more going to be for teaching positions, faculty positions, academics, okay? That's where the curriculum vitae are 20 plus pages of all your accomplishments, okay, including publications, right? Presentations. Let's see, book chapters, everything, okay? Resumes are going to be more geared towards experience jobs, right? Page length, usually 1 to 2 pages, still similar in most countries. Personal information, of course, general location, right? City, state, your phone number, email address. If you want, you can put in your LinkedIn profile, right? Make sure it's a URL link that recruiters can click on. And then in European Union nations, you're going to also include nationality, civil status, birth date, gender, maiden name, marital status. Okay. Photos are different for countries. Okay, like I said, United States, we don't encourage including photos. But for yes, in European countries, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, okay, do require photos or prefer photos, okay? Personal statement and language skills, of course, please include those, okay? I also put together some general tips I found for resumes in the United Arab of Emirates, okay? Typically, they're going to be called a resume, right? And that's for when you're applying for a job or you want to showcase your academic achievements, okay? Similar to the United States, it's still 1 to 2 pages. The difference is you want to include your professional photo, okay? And then, of course, your career objective at the top. You want to talk about whether you are a job seeker, whether you are looking for this position, applying for this position, and or whether you're up for promotion. Okay. All right, for your contact information, I have 2 examples up here. Which one is easier to read? Go ahead, you can unmute yourself. Deirdre, thank you. We also don't encourage marital status. Thank you. Okay, what do we think of contact information? Which one's easier to read? First one, second one, what do we think? Lindsay says first one. Yep. Safar, first one. Fantastic. Yep. First one. Absolutely. Okay. So making sure that your font is going to be clear, right? Sometimes we want to be or make our resume stand out, but simple is usually or oftentimes better. Okay, so make sure we stick with something that is readable, legible, and font. Okay. All right, for photos, I included a few examples. Okay, let me know. I have 4 photos up here. Do you think this one is acceptable to put on a resume? Go ahead, type in the chat box. You can say yes, no. Safar says no. Safar, why do you say no? Any other thoughts? Jessica thinks it's okay. One side of the face is more bright than the other. Okay. Good observations, everyone. This one I'm gonna have to say would be acceptable. Okay. It's professional attire. Photos are from head to about chest, right? And then the background is clear and free of clutter. Okay. It's going to be a clean, simple photo and easy to see. Okay. Next one. What about this one? What does everyone think? Informal? Yep. Not for a resume? Yep. You're right, Jessica. It's a little blurry. Absolutely. You're all right. Okay. I would not recommend using this photo for a resume. Okay. Jessica says too informal, not business attire. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely not suitable for a resume. Correct. I would probably not use this photo for your resume. Okay. I would take one without a background, right? Maybe a better camera so it's not as blurry. Yeah, it could be okay for LinkedIn. Absolutely. Yes. Sometimes LinkedIn pictures, they're smaller too as well. Okay. For a resume to stand out though, I would not. Good question, Jessica. All right. Third photo, what does everyone think? Should we include this on a resume? Jessica's not sure. Yep, attire seems professional, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Deirdre says, I think so. Yep, yep. Ramat says, looks fine. Absolutely. Yeah, I would include this photo, okay? Background is plain and simple, right? Yeah, smiling could be more acceptable in the US, Deirdre. That seems absolutely correct. Background seems good. Yeah. Absolutely. Good thought, Deirdre. I didn't even think about that. Okay. All right, last photo. What do we think? Do we include? Bar says no. Yeah, Jessica says great background, but too informal. Yes. That's your office. That's fantastic. I'm loving the plants everywhere. No, but good for an Instagram post. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah, so dress is great, right? He is dressed professionally, attire is good. The picture of himself is great, right? But for background purposes, we might want to have a clear background and we might want to have a picture that's closer up to view that head to chest, right? Okay, because on your resume, it's going to be smaller. Fantastic. All right. So moving on, let's talk about creating your bullet points in a resume, okay? Typically here in the United States, we recommend using a 3-part method, okay? So we're gonna talk about what you did in your position, how you did it, and why or what the result was, okay? That's gonna be only one bullet point. Okay, talking about what you did, how you did it, and why. Okay, 3-part method. Okay, then you're going to do it again and again and again, right, to create those bullet points in your resume. Okay, let's see. You're always going to begin with a strong action verb. Okay, what are strong action verbs? Great question. Let me tell you. Okay, your action verbs are here. Okay, you collaborated, evaluated, developed, implemented. Okay. So for example, instead of saying you developed a mobile app in your resume, we're going to use the 3-part method. Okay. So what you did, for example, is going to be you developed 2 nutritional mobile apps. Okay. Well, how did you do it? You did it through the use of Xcode and Swift. Right. And then that why or result is that it was downloaded by 1,500 users. Okay, so then your whole bullet point is going to be that you developed 2 nutritional mobile apps using Xcode and Swift that was downloaded by 1,500 users. Okay, does that sound better than just you developed a mobile app? Yeah, Lindsay, thumbs up. Absolutely, Deirdre. Shows how effective at the job. Wonderful. Okay. So now I'm going to have you practice. All right. Think of a position that you are currently in, a past position, and I want you to create 2 bullet points. Feel free, you can unmute yourself, you can throw it in the chat, but think about what you did, how you did it, and why you did it. Okay, so we'll take a couple of minutes here. Yeah, go back to the verb slide, absolutely. I reference these action verbs like every day. All right, anyone brave enough to share a bullet point that they have created? Anyone? Awesome, Jessica. Created documentation and instructional videos to mentor new teachers and onboarding process. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay. Created, fantastic. Created documentation and instructional videos. How'd you do it? Did you use PowerPoint, Word? Instructional videos. Oh gosh, I wouldn't even know what to use for that. But you can talk about which platforms you created those documents on as the how. And then the why is to mentor new teachers and onboarding process. Yep, PowerPoint Word document, fantastic. We have another example, completed 6 weeks of 6 weeks training of English language teaching. Yeah, and the app, absolutely. Fantastic, okay. Completed 6 weeks training. All right, awesome. So why did we do the training, right? Deirdre consulted individually with 500 plus faculty, graduate students, and undergraduate students to edit publications, theses, presentations, and course assignments. Fantastic, absolutely. Wonderful. Good examples, great examples. Thank you everyone for sharing. There we go, to augment your language skills. Language teaching skills. Fantastic. Wonderful. Good work, everyone. Okay. So for the education section, I put up a couple of examples here, okay? Education with University of Nebraska at Omaha. Then of course, you're gonna include the location, Omaha, Nebraska, even though it sounds redundant because it's in the name, okay? And then for your degree, make sure you delivered sessions on language skills. Yeah, okay. Delivered sessions to whom? Right? Fantastic. Okay. For your degree, you're going to spell out your full degree. Okay. Not just your major in criminal justice. You're going to say a Bachelor of Science in Criminology and Criminal Justice. Okay. Then you can include any minors, concentrations. If you want, you can include your GPA. And then, of course, make sure your expected graduation date if you have not graduated yet. Good question, Jessica. I would spell out the Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. It's going to look more professional when you spell out the whole degree. Good question. Fantastic. Language skills to ELTs. Okay. Then we have a second example of how your education should look. Okay. Like I said, you can include GPAs if you have any scholarships, chancellor's list, dean's list, honors society, honors program. Okay. You can list any of those academic achievements either in your education section, or you can have a whole new section of honors and awards. Okay. All right, so past tense versus present tense. When we were working on designing our bullet points, okay, it's important to note whether you should put past tense or present tense, okay? For example, if you are currently working as a mobile development intern, those action verbs that we have listed are all going to be in present tense. So you develop cutting edge iOS applications on small teams in an agile environment. Okay. You assign diverse projects across unfamiliar technologies. Okay. If it is a past position, we will use past tense. Okay. So for example, we developed cutting edge iOS applications and we assigned diverse projects. Okay. Make sure that you are aware of when you do those bullet points that we want to check tenses. Any questions about past tense or present tense? Okay. Awesome. All right. So here's an example of what that professional section will look like. Okay. You can put it under professional experience, related experience, work experience, however you want to title the section. Okay. Then you'll add where it is that you are working at, company. Okay. For example, this one will be the Academic and Career Development Center at UNO. And the position title is going to be peer advisor. Okay. So, and since we currently work here, we'll have present tense. So we meet with students to review resumes and cover letters during one-on-one appointments, right, to ensure career readiness. Okay. Then we assist in creation and coordination of career-focused events and workshops to expose students to career readiness competencies. Okay. Last, we also serve as department representative and campus advocate by promoting career-related resources, services, and events to students. Okay. All of these bullet points are going to include that what, how, and why method. Then they're also going to showcase soft transferable skills, right? For example, meeting with students, right? That's people skills. Assisting in creation and coordination, right, of workshops. That could be creative skills or organizational skills. Okay. Serving as department representative, maybe that's some management skills, okay? So it's going to showcase those soft transferable skills that can be applicable in any position, right? We're all going to need communication for our positions, no matter where you go, right? All right. Additional sections and headers. Okay. You can include honors and awards, right? Or we can put it under education. Language proficiency, right? Any other languages that you can speak or you're learning, right? We want to include those on your resume. We can also add the proficiency level. So beginner, native speaker, okay, advanced. Also include any programming languages and environments. This typically applies to a lot of IS&T, advanced level, great. IS&T, that information science and technology, all of your computer science, management information systems. What else am I missing in there? Okay, those will need programming languages. Have you had experience with Java, Python, C++, C++? I'm learning these programming languages by looking at resumes. I have no idea what they mean, but if you're in any information science and technology career field, make sure you include those programming languages, right? Any certificates, any trainings, right? Let's see, we had a training in here. So far, 6 weeks training of English language, okay? We can include that in your training section. Okay. Last but not least, relevant coursework. You can include any relevant coursework you have been taking in college, okay? Typically, college is your full-time job, right? So if we don't have enough relevant work experience to the field that you want to go into, we can incorporate relevant coursework into your resume, okay? Think back to any projects you've had to do for your classes. How about any presentations, okay? Any group work. That's going to show that you can work individually and in a group, independently and collaboratively, right? Relevant coursework, maybe there's a capstone class that you had to take, right? We can include your research project in there. Okay? Almost any category can be a section, okay? Your sections are specific, so stay away from any generic or general sections, okay? But almost anything can be a section in your resume. Okay. All right. Our services here at ACDC, there's just going to be a list of some of our professional development or career service appointment types. Okay. Prototype is going to be that. I'm sure no. Has anybody heard of prototype? Put a thumbs up, hands up, thumbs down, hands down. Can you put hands down in this? I'm not sure. Nobody's heard of it? That's okay. I didn't know about it before either. So prototype is going to be what's called informational interviewing. Okay. So for example, I want to go into the medical field. I want to be a nurse. Prototype is that informational interviewing where I am going to go interview a nurse. What's your educational background? How did you get into the field? What skills are needed? What do I need to do? Okay. So that way you can, first of all, network, but also get information of what you need to do in order to break it, make it into that field. Okay. Major in career exploration. right? Maybe you are a biology major and you have no idea what you want to do with that, right? Look, we will help you. Okay. Resumes and cover letters, we do those. There's two different types of appointments for resumes and cover letters. We can do a one-on-one appointment, right? In person, remote, by phone, email, however you are accessible, we are here for you. Okay. You can also, maybe if you don't have time to meet one-on-one, you can also submit your resume to our online resume review tool. Okay. You'll just upload a copy of your resume and one of our staff members will issue feedback to you via email within usually 3 to 5 days. Okay. So maybe you just need some feedback really quick, don't have time to meet one-on-one, submit it through our online portal. Okay. We also do practice interviews, right? This also can be via Zoom. It can be in person. I have tons of interview questions for all different kinds of fields. Okay. If you want, you can send me the job description that you applied for and you got called in for an interview. Send me the description. I will create some specific questions to that job posting to help you get ready. I'll also share tips, tricks, best practices for interviewing. Okay. We also do job and internship search strategies. So I'll teach you how to network on LinkedIn, teach you how to network on Handshake, right? And then in person, we do free professional headshots as well. So if you are in the United States, you're here on campus, you want to make an appointment, all you have to do is book an appointment on Handshake. All of these can be booked on Handshake, or you can call our office. Okay. With that, I think I'm making good time. Awesome. We are at 7:44 now, and I will open up the floor for any questions.
Nikki, could you go back to the first slide? That I had a question from the first slide, but I can't remember what it was.
Yes, absolutely. Let me share my screen. Is it this one?
I think it was the one about what's good on a resume and what's not. You were comparing the US to other countries.
This one?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone that's not in the US put a photo on their resume for a job in the US, would that turn a US employer off, or would they not care that much, or would they understand that it's common in other places, or?
It depends. So typically I'm learning that most companies are now utilizing that ATS, that applicant tracking software system. And so most times it's going to automatically reject the resume. And so I don't think recruiters would be aware if that is the first kind of step in looking through resumes. If they were not using applicant tracking systems, then I think it's possible to understand that there are differences with photos. But I would just be very aware not to include. I'm learning, I think 99% of Fortune 500 companies are using ATS to screen resumes. And I want to say another study found that 80% of companies are using ATS, I believe.
Okay. And conversely, if someone in the US were applying to another country, if we didn't put the photo, or if we didn't put, for example, I would never put marital status
Correct.
and birth date on my resume because it's not appropriate in the US. If I didn't and I sent my resume overseas, how would that be received?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure because I haven't worked with any recruiters from overseas. My suspicion is though, I would recommend doing some research to where or which country you are applying for. Maybe take a look at some example resumes if you can find any, doing some research on what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, to then format your own resume. I do
Thanks.
think we have to be very aware depending on which country we're applying for the positions. It's a great question.
Would you ever recommend reaching out to like a specific employer
Yeah,
to ask that kind of question, or are they going to kind of roll their eyes and think that you should know better?
no, I don't think so at all, because recruiters want to look at visually appealing resumes, right? Usually recruiters are very receptive. How can we help, right? Applicants improve their applications.
Okay, so I guess I have a follow-up question. In the US, do you encourage an applicant to contact, for example, if they're applying for a large company or at like a university like UNO, should they contact the department or unit that's hiring them, or should they contact the general human resources office?
I think either one, because originally your resume is going to go straight to HR first before it's screened through, as long as you meet those minimum requirements, qualifications. But I don't think it hurts to reach out. Also, you can work with networking with other people within that department or company to say, hey, do you have any tips for resumes? What should I include in mine? So maybe if you don't reach out to the recruiting person specifically, there's someone in that department that could offer advice. How did you get the job? What does your resume look like?
If you submit a resume for a job that you think you're qualified for, but your resume might not, or your job experience might not come from exactly the same or the typical fields that they're looking for, how would you go about asking whether you made it through their screening process at HR and were passed on to the review committee?
Yeah, I would just get in touch with HR. That happened to me one time. I specifically asked because I was not passed through HR. And so I specifically asked someone, why was my application not passed through? Did I not meet the minimum requirements? And so they are more than willing to share why you didn't, or at least that's been my experience.
Okay. I asked because the first time I applied at UNO, they had a 3-year minimum teaching experience requirement, and I'd had lots of various types of informal teaching, coaching, experience, but I wouldn't have called it teaching myself because I wasn't in a classroom or I wasn't working for an academic institution. And so I wasn't sure how to write it on my resume. And the person who hired me actually suggested that I rewrite my resume so that it would get through HR. It was very strange.
Yeah, I do recommend to students when reading the job description, I always tell them that they should pull out any keywords from that job description and throw them right into your own resume. Especially for the applicant tracking software system, that will help showcase the specific skills that they're looking for to make your application stand out more. For yours, Deirdre, I think sometimes it could be just depending on HR.
Yeah, I guess I also wondered, when we choose those verbs,
Yes.
whether there's a general skill, technical skill spectrum, I guess. Like teaching can be a very general type of thing that you do, even in a company if you're an IT person. and you're teaching workshops. But I wouldn't necessarily, if I were that IT person, I don't know that I would call it teaching if I were applying for an instructor faculty position in an IT department at a college. Like I would put it as experience, but I would probably use a different word. So I don't know that there's a question there. I mean, there probably is, but
No, I would be intentional with those action verbs then and showcase the teaching skills that you have. So talking about tutoring, advising, coaching, guiding, motivating students.
okay, yeah.
I think those would help showcase the teaching skills that maybe HR would miss. I would highlight those.
And if there's if you're applying for a job that you know is being screened and you feel like it's not being, like you're not kind of getting through the system, is it ever acceptable to send your resume directly to someone in the program that you're applying to in the US, or is that kind of considered
I think
inappropriate?
depends. My own personal example is HR forgot to push me through one time for an application that I put in, which I was qualified for. So when I hadn't heard back, I checked, I went to the hiring manager and said, hey, still very interested in this position. Here's my resume and cover letter. Let me know if you have questions.
Okay,
But it turns out HR did not push me through, and the hiring manager was completely unaware that I had even applied.
okay. Well, and I guess I wondered too, because my my sister was trained in academics and went through a whole grad program in academics, and now works in like business intelligence in a company. And so her degree background and her previous jobs really don't have anything to do with the typical trainings that people in her field use. And so when she applied at the request of one or two high level people in the company that she applied for this kind of high level position, she was screened out, and she wasn't sure what to say or not say. And I think if her friend hadn't followed up and said, we know that you can do this because we worked with you at this other company doing that, and she still felt very awkward going through the HR process, and having it sort of handed directly to them from the hiring unit down to HR.
Yeah, I think it can definitely depend on who's handling the application. It can depend on the hiring manager, it can depend on HR. I would always be happy to accept applications. But that's also just me personally. And they also may be hesitant because of HR rules, guidelines, right?
Right.
On how you can evaluate resumes. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that that's good. I think, I guess I would expect that given the economy and the pandemic, there are probably lots of people that are moving sideways to different kinds of positions. And so that may be a little bit more common in the future, but I'm also not clear with whatever that software you said that companies use to screen things.
Yeah.
Because I'm not familiar with how the software works. I'm also not sure what it means when writing my resume, because I'm pretty old and people actually used to physically look at resumes back the last several times I applied for jobs.
Yeah, I have a couple of samples that I can send to you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, does anybody have any further questions for Nikki or for any other of the UNO staff we have here?
And let me just say to everybody who joined, we are super happy that you're here. We plan on hosting these 6 times a year for now. We also plan to put a list of these videos and resources up on our webpage so that if you miss these, or if you want to share it with a friend, or you want to refer back to it, we can see it. I also encourage you, if you have been to UNO as a grant affiliate or a student, I believe Nikki said that there's a way that you can still connect with the Academic Career Services Office as an alumni. And so you should definitely check out their page. We will have ACDC back here for another one of our webinars in the future. I can see some other questions coming up in the comments. So we'll stay here for a little bit longer, but I also just want to say this is just a nice chance for us to catch up and see each other and have a little personal chat. So even if you have questions at the very end that are not directly related to the presentation, we can, once we turn off the recording, we can kind of catch up and say hi too. Okay, Nikki, I'm going to give it back to you for these last questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes, Nikki, so it looks like if we could answer what about the personal statement? How important is it? Should it necessarily be used in the CV?
Yeah, so typically what I see nowadays, objectives, summaries, personal statements, I don't typically see in a resume anymore. Okay, and that's so that you don't take up precious space to talk about your accomplishments, your positions, and that all of that is now in the cover letter. Okay, typically the personal statements, you know, we know you're applying to this job, right? And so that's all covered in the cover letter instead of the resume. I have seen exceptions though in IS&T, that information science and technology field. And so I still do see that in computer science, management information systems, other IS&T fields, I do still see it. Others, no. Good question. And sharing the slides, yes, I will share these slides with Lindsay and Deirdre, who can post on the website.
Yes. And again, we just want to thank you all for coming. It is now just about 8 o'clock our time. So we're going to officially end this workshop. I will make sure that Deirdre is host so she can stay on, like Ramad, if you wanted to stay on and chat with other folks. But Nikki, thank you for your wonderful information and for being here. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your night, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you.